hello, Britzoners. Wow. Happy to see you all again. Yeah. And as you know, today we will talk about graduate school application, things you should know before applying. Who is excited here? Oh my God, yes. You can unmute yourself and you can give your opinion. What do you want to get from this class? Maybe Georgius? Hello. Are you going to apply for a graduate school, Kak?
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Kak Rafli. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Britzone class again. Yay! We can see here we already have 4 speakers. Wow, wow, wow. I really can't wait to have the session. But before that, as usual, we will give an announcement first from Britzone. Kak Raki, would you mind to share the screen? Okay. Hi, fellow Britzoners. Britzone is a free English community. Next, Kak. We have several values that are free and open platforms, so everyone from various backgrounds can join. And it's focused on English education, and all of us here are volunteer, including the speakers. And next, Kak. Yep. So Britzone has 3 classes every week. The first is Britzone Speaking Academy, start at 7 p.m. on Tuesday and focus on public speaking such as speech, debate, interview, etc. Next. And the second is Britzone Betterment Series on Wednesday. It means today, and it also starts at 7 p.m. It touches 4 skills in English such as listening, reading, writing, and also speaking. And next, last but not least, there is Saturday Fun Day class. Yes, it starts at 11 a.m. every Saturday, and it brings various topics and more fun. Yay! Next, Kak. Okay. As a non-profit organization, Britzone have Britzone merch and also Busy Mart, but Busy Mart is inactive currently because of the pandemic, but you can buy the merchandise on Britzone merch. And next, Kak. Okay. Next, please. Wait. Kak Putri, can you please handle because I can't see. Oh no, it's okay now. Next, Kak. Is this the? Sorry guys, Kak Putri, can you help me to handle because the screen is can't appear in my screen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Nada. And we are supported by Perpustakaan Dikbud. It's the Library of Education and Culture Ministry. They supported us for years, and you can sign up for becoming the member of the library to access impressive resources, 32 book collections, audio and video collections. And we highly recommend you to follow at Perpustakaan Dikbud on Instagram and become the member of it. Next.
Thank you. It's clear now. Yep. And Atmago that support us. Atmago is a social network app in Indonesia that helps people to share neighborhood issue with its campaign Warga Bantu Warga. I think lost traditions that are taking pictures together, and please give your feedback in the link that will be given to the group later on after this class, because your feedback matters to let us give a better classes for you. Thank you. And Karaki, there is another announcement from Atmago.
All right. Good evening, Britzoners. I'm Raki. I'm the brand ambassador of Atmago. I will let you know about Atmago more with some videos.
Apa itu Atmago? Atmago adalah sebuah media sosial berbasis masyarakat dengan semboyan warga bantu warga. Atmago mengajak warga masyarakat untuk saling berbagi informasi di sekitarnya secara online. Informasi dapat berupa berita, lowongan kerja, pengaduan, dan pengumuman kegiatan warga yang semuanya bersifat lokal. Atmago mengajak kita untuk menjadi jurnalis warga yang mampu mengabarkan keadaan sekitar kita sendiri yang mungkin luput dari pemberitaan media besar. Ayo beratmago dan tunjukkan siapa dirimu.
Alright, so for the next video here.
Indonesia memiliki lebih dari 3.000 komunitas yang berpengaruh di bidangnya. Karenanya, Atmago menghadirkan ruang komunitas Atmago, ubah diskusi menjadi aksi. Atmago menawarkan berbagai fasilitas. Kamu dapat menampilkan aksi-aksi komunitas kamu, merekrut relawan baru, mendokumentasikan semua kegiatan komunitas kamu, memonitor dan menganalisis segala bentuk perkembangan dalam angka dan data. Jadi tunggu apa lagi? Mari bergabung bersama ruang komunitas Atmago. Atmago.com, warga bantu warga.
Alright, that the two videos from Atmago, and I will also let you know about the web page of Atmago. So here we go. All right, can you see it? This is the web page of Atmago. There's some folder here like bencana, inovasi dan teknologi, keamanan dan kriminalitas, kesehatan, and so on. And for this time, Atmago have a curhat corona session here, so you can contact any counselor here to, let's say, sharing your story about the COVID-19 and so on. I think that's all from me. If you want to know more about Atmago, please reach out me at Ishraki_Siregar on Instagram. Thank you so much. Back to you, MC.
Okay, thank you so much, Karaki. And now, without any further ado, I believe that you already wait for this session to talk about graduate school application. And we have Origo team here. The first of all, the speaker that you see on the poster is Sharon. Sharon,
Hi guys.
Hi, Sharon.
Hello.
Yeah, Sharon is graduate from University of Southern California in 2019 and 16, earning summa cum laude honors for her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from the Marshall School. As you can see from the class poster, Sharon is the founder of Origo Edu, a college admissions consultant. And she also accompanied by 3 friends from Origo. There are Fitriana Jessica. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Nada. Thank you for having us.
Yes. And then Inesia Maksuma. Hi, Kak
Hi
Ines.
guys. Hi.
Okay. And last but not least, we have Kak Gracia Anggrani here. Hi, Kak Gracia.
Hello everyone.
Hello. So without any further ado, I will let the Origo team to help the class. And also, I need to tell you guys, this is an information class. So make sure that you take note of many informations that the team gives to you. Okay.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Nada, for the introduction. I will share screen then to start. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Belum just sebentar. Okay, can see it now.
Okay. Okay, now I have just changed it to a full screen mode. Can you see it well? There.
Yeah. Okay, I will start. Yeah.
Sure.
First of all, thank you guys for coming today. I know we're all very, very busy. So today, what we want to present to you is graduate school application. And we're very excited to be with you today. Maybe what's different from a lot of the other Britzone format is today, basically, Jessica, Ines, and I will be delivering almost for the full session. So we won't have a breakout room. It'll be about 1 hour to 1 hour 15 because we have a lot of information to share with you. But if you have any questions, just put it in the chat, right? And like Nada or any MC, you can just interrupt us to ask if that's more interactive. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so just a little bit about us. We started in 2018, and basically our mission is to help people like you study abroad, right? So we understand you have a lot of concerns like, what should I major in? How much will this cost? How can I get a scholarship? And what do I need to do now? So today we are here to answer these questions for you. Okay, next. Just a little bit more about us before we begin. Basically, we can do anything and everything for you. If you say, I want to apply to the best universities in the US, we can do that. If you just say, can you help us review the essays, we can just strengthen your narrative. And the last one will be the education agent representatives, where we help students go abroad for free, right? So you don't have to pay us anything, and we take care of your application, all of your essays, and your visas. Okay, so enough about us. We'll get started now. Okay, do you ever wonder where the majority of the Indonesian students go, right? So I don't think it's a surprise that a lot of us choose to go to Australia because, yeah, Mommy Papi wants you to stay close to them, right? And the closest Western school near us is in Australia. So as you can see here from the global flow of the tertiary students, the number 1 destination is Australia. Number 2 is the US. 3 is Malaysia. 4, Japan. 5, UK. 6, Germany. Then you have the Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, which is a bit surprising, right? Korea, and finally Canada. But for the purpose of today's presentation, when we conducted a discussion with Britzone, I think the majority of the interest came from the UK, Netherlands, and then from Australia. So there are several reasons that you should pursue a master's degree. The first is that in the traditional master's sense, let's say that previously you got a bachelor in engineers and then you wanted to do a master's in engineering, You would take it because you want to get in depth more to your field, right? Then there is a second time, which is a change of directions master's. And so this is, for example, the case if you were previously an architecture major who is looking to go into a business field, right? So that's what we call change of directions. And the last one isn't exactly a master's degree. So it's what we call a graduate entry professional qualifications. Let's say you were a teacher who got their bachelor's degree and then you needed further studying, right? So even in the most postgraduate, like master's sense, you can just simply gain a diploma or just a certificate, right? So if you're trying to pursue a master's program, you don't necessarily need to do it for 3 years. Some of them may only be for, for 2 years. Some of them may only be a year. And if you're looking for a certificate, it could be as simple as a few months. Next.
Okay, so that was a little bit of overview. Thank you, Sharon, for explaining that. Before we jump into Australia and Netherlands that we'll discuss later today, we're going to start with the United Kingdom, one of the most popular countries that students want to go to pursue their master's degree. So you might wonder what we will discuss when we talk about UK or when we talk about other countries. Basically, we're going to talk about the top reasons why you should apply to that particular country. And then specifically in UK, we're going to talk about the Russell Group universities, because you might only know of or heard about Cambridge, right, or Oxford, but there are other very well best known universities in the UK called the Russell Group. And then you might want to know the graduate degree characteristics, the best universities for the graduate employability, and the popular majors. The tuition fee, right, is very important. And then the next one is the living cost. Next thing you might want to know about the application requirements, kind of like an overview of what you need to prepare. And last thing is what are the available scholarships? And specifically to this session, we're going to talk about university-based scholarship. The top reasons of why you should apply for a study abroad in the UK. First, it is a high quality education. For your information, there are 4 universities in the UK that are best known globally, which are first, University of Oxford, University of Cambridge, and if you might have heard, it's called the Imperial College London, and the 4th one is the University College London. So those are the 2 most reputable ones. And London specifically is the #1 place or a destination for students from around the world to study in. It's very popular. And UK offers you a shorter study time. So as, let's say, traditional master, as soon as you graduated from the 1-year program, you can get your Master of Science or your master degree right away. Reasonable cost of living. If you want to go, let's say you want to go to University of Edinburgh in Scotland, then it might give you an overview of like kind of generally cheaper tuition fee compared to the ones in London. It's academic centric. So once you apply to that particular major, then you're going to study a set of course that is very specific to that major. A unique UK culture, and you also able to work for up to 2 years once you graduated. And not to mention that UK is like the getaway to Europe. Let's say you want to go to Amsterdam, is 1 hour away. You want to go to Spain, it's 2 hours. Same goes for Germany and Italy. So Russell Group universities, this is the list, right? If you kind of take a look, you might have heard some of them. Let's say you probably have heard your friend went to Queen Mary University of London. Others that are quite popular among Indonesians are the Queen's University Belfast. We also, it's quite popular, the King's College London among Indonesians. So these are the 24 universities in the UK called the Russell Group that are well known globally for its academic reputation, for its extracurricular reputation, club activities, research orientation, and stuff like that. So if you're wondering, can Origo help me to apply to these universities? Yes, because some of them we partner with, right? For the full list of the universities that we partnered with, we're gonna give you that by the end of the session.
Because the chances are, if you were living here, you would probably have heard of all these universities. And if you wonder what's the uniting factor for them, it's only the fact that they're called the Russell's Group. In Australia, I think it's called the G7 or the G8.
So before we go in depth to talk about the application requirements or the detailed tuition fee for your reference, we kind of want to give you a sneak peek to what does it look like to actually pursue a master's degree in the UK, like the characteristic, right? So the average length of study is actually, an average is 1 year, and you need to check specifically to each university and each major, because some of them may be like 2 years program if that is part-time, or maybe even shorter if that's only certificate or a diploma program. And then most are public institutions. And in terms of the tuition fee, for your information, it costs around 20,000 to 27,000 pounds, pounds sterling, right? In terms of the universities aside from the Russell Group that we put in the previous slide, if you ask me whether that costs around 20,000, then actually they may cost lower than 20,000 pounds sterling. So you can definitely check and cross-check with each major, look into the international students tuition. Generally, you'll need a 3.0 GPA. Okay, so let's say you have 2.8 GPA, because UK is very academic centric, we better suggest you to apply to other universities, because they really take a look at GPA as entry requirements. So you are mandatory to fulfill that.
Yeah. So I think like if sometimes the UK requests for 2-1 honors, the GPA is about like 3 to 3.5, right? Because in the UK, they don't actually ask for a GPA, but they say something like first class honors, which means that you're in the top 25% of your class. Typically, that's about a 3.7. Yeah.
So in terms of, if you kind of ask, so Jess, I kind of already know about the Russell Group, right? I mean, they're really great, but I kind of want to know which one of those university that I should apply to, that you recommend, that is good for graduate employability reputation. So we have kind of summarized here for you the top 10. And I wonder if any of you might want to apply to this university. Feel free to ask some questions in the middle of our presentation through the chat box, right? Because we won't exactly cover all of these universities. We will only give you an example of up to 3 for each major later on. So if you have any questions, feel free to let us know in the group chat. Now, the next question that we get from our students is that, okay, so Origo, we already know about which are the best universities. Next, we want to know if the major that we're applying to is kind of competitive enough, or it's a major that no one actually is looking for, so I have a high chance of getting in, right? And we have summarized here the top 5 major that students often apply to. The number 1 is, of course, business and administrative studies related. Let's say this includes business administration, this includes accounting, marketing, and a little bit finance is also here. You need to check to each university whether they fall under which department, because each university has different umbrella for each of these majors. Nursing, healthcare, and medicine falls in the 2nd place. Education, including teacher training, is in the 3rd place. It's quite tied with the healthcare major. Social studies here, for example, international relations, probably some public communications related, it's there. The last one, the 5th one, is the biological sciences. Actually, engineering falls around like rank 6 or rank 7. All right, now we kind of already know, right, which universities that are quite popular among the Russell Group. And then we know which majors that are also popular among many students. Now, we kind of want to narrow it down into which universities are best well known for a particular major. We have put here, like, for example, these are the university that quite popular for the business and administration studies. The reason for that is most probably because of the location and because of the core studies that they have is probably quite rigid and quite detailed compared to other universities. Gitu. So we're gonna take a look at the example of entry requirements. So if you guys are wondering, how can I apply to universities abroad? Well, that translates into what are the things that I should prepare to apply to a master's degree abroad, let's say for international business studies. When you want to look for the things that you need to prepare, there are two things that you need to take a look. First is that the entry requirements, and the second is the full entry requirements. The entry requirements mean that it is the set of requirement that you must fulfill in order for you to be eligible to apply for that particular major. And the entry requirements are first the GPA, or like what Sharon has mentioned earlier, is your position within your class, like 2.1 honors degree and something like that. This is the international equivalency that translates into a minimum GPA. And then the next one is the English requirement, right? So you need to fulfill the English requirement, and it's best recommended if you take the IELTS if you want to go to UK.
By the way, sorry to cut. The IELTS is only valid for 2 years. So like if you take it today and then you apply 3 years from now, you're gonna have to retake it, right? The other thing is as well for your GRE and your GMAT, even though it's not required here, if you take it, it's valid for 5 years. So it's a bit different when you should take them.
Yeah, betul. And then as in, if you ask us, as in, let's say my IELTS overall is 7, right? But Jess, one element within my IELTS as a speaking is actually 6. Can I apply to International Business Studies, University of Manchester? Then we will kind of recommend you to look into other university, because like what I've said before, these are the entry requirements. You must fulfill the entry requirements to make sure that you're eligible to apply. So if you just want to try your luck or something, you may, but the chances of you getting admitted is quite low, or it's very unpredictable.
Yeah,
right?
I think Rama has a question. Is the minimum GPA does it apply to all universities in Indonesia?
So if you mean like the minimum GPA?
Yeah.
Yes, it applies to all universities in Indo.
Yeah, so like if you were, let's say like here, I know, right, there are different tiers of universities. Let's say you come from either like UI or another university like Pertamina, even if like, you know, there are thousands of schools here, they will kind of weigh for it the same, right? They will not take into consideration that if you're in UI and you get like a 2.6, they will not really want to consider you. Jadinya kayak a general good rule of thumb is you are likely to go in if you look at the minimum GPA, right? And if you fall in that, you look at the IELTS requirement and you're over that. And typically if they ask for a GRE or a GMAT, you succeed that, right? Gitu. So that's like a rule of thumb.
Yeah, and it also applies for universities, not only in Indonesia, but abroad that are not in the UK and uses the GPA system. So yeah, this applies worldwide. And the essay or CV. So once you kind of already gotten the hang of the entry requirements, right? The English requirements is already fulfilled, the GPA is already fulfilled. Now comes the essay, CV, and LOR part. That includes the GRE or GMAT, right? What is the essay here? Essay, usually they will straightly ask that within the website, so you can know whether they require that or not, because it's quite straight on point for UK universities website. And then you need to take a look as well for the CV, because for some universities, even though you're looking at the same major, you want to apply to like, let's say engineering. Some universities may require CV, some may not, because they would require it if you have graduated for more than 3 years ago. So you have this professional qualification that shows that you've worked for around 3 years, and they wanted to know what you have achieved, something like that. So you need to take a look.
So the other question I imagine a lot of people would have is like, let's say I want to apply to the University of Manchester, right? Then I want to apply to International Business Studies and Finance. The question would be, should I apply for them at the same time, right? We would recommend you apply to one at a time. Because if you apply to kaya one at a time, you're indicating that you're interested and you're committed to that major. You should only apply to the other like major if you get rejected from this one. Yeah. So that's the timing for the UK, but in the US, some would encourage you to apply to two, right? Different schools have different policies.
Yeah. And probably the last two is the letter of recommendation. You need to check, right? The letter of recommendation, generally they would require only one and mostly are academic. But if they require two, usually the other one is optional. So optional as in if you have graduated more than 3 years ago and they would require an LOR from, let's say, your supervisor or someone who has supervisory work, something like that. Your GMAT, you need to look because this is Master of Science. International Business Studies is a Master of Science degree. They don't necessarily require GRE or GMAT, but if you want to apply for an MBA program, then you need a GMAT for sure. So far. So next thing is the engineering major, right? So we have put here 4 universities that we recommend for you. So if you're kind of wondering, Jess, can you help me apply to these universities? Yes, for sure. And then the next thing, if you ask, how can you help me apply to these universities? We can help you apply for free because these are our partner universities. So don't worry on that part. The universities that we put here are all our partner, except for the one that I put in the front, like the Russell Group's one. Not all of them are our partner.
Okay, yes. Actually, there is a question from YouTube viewer. Does Origo have proofreading service?
Yeah. So it's not just proofreading, but it's an entire content restructuring. Jadi misalnya from the start dari bikin outline, terus dari wording and the content, we have to like make sure it's the same as the CV, right? Because like sometimes people gimana ya, in this you have to sell yourself. Whereas people here, they're taught like, you know, you have to be humble, you have to be like shy, don't brag. Whereas if you're applying abroad, they want you to brag. They want you to say, I'm good at this, I'm great at that, right? This is who I am. So it's a bit different. Yeah, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe just for your information, we'll have another session next week talking specifically about essay. So tune in to our class next week because we'll talk about like in-depth session about essays and what you should put and what you should not put.
Yeah, and we'll try to show samples of like what's a strong essay and what could be a stronger one.
All right, so it's civil or structural engineering. Why I put here specifically because as I mentioned before, even though it is like, let's say it's Master in Engineering, Master of Science in Civil and Structural Engineering, it may not be the same as, let's say, Master in Electrical Engineering. They're very much different, so you need to take a look in each of the majors requirement. But University of Manchester, Nottingham, Leeds, and Liverpool are the ones that we put here as an example. Like what I've mentioned before, please make sure that if you want to apply to these universities, please make sure that you have fulfilled the minimum GPA, make sure that English requirement you have fulfilled as well, not only the overall, but the each section requirement, right? Yeah. Some universities may only say you need to get 6 for all subsection, but for example, other universities may ask, let's say specifically 6 in speaking, and it's okay to get like 5 in other section. So you need to fulfill those.
By the way, if we're talking about CV, kita reference-nya ke resume ya, bukan kayak cover letter or the kind you write, dear blah, 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 I want to apply to this school. That's what we call the essay. Just so the terminology is not confused.
Yeah, betul. So if you kind of notice here, I put CV may be required for the engineering major, because when I take a look at the Manchester, they mentioned specifically that they need CV if you have graduated more than 3 years ago. And that kind of translates into engineering, most probably will need CV, right? So if you kind of wondering whether other universities require CV, even though they don't specifically say that out loud in the website, then we can ask them for that. That's why agents like us help you connect with the university to ask about these kinds of stuff, rather than you having to email them and wait for like 5 days or even more to wait for only one specific information. Meanwhile, we can get that info for you for like 1 or 2 days. Letter of Recs, GRE and GMAT, same goes here, similar to the ones in the international business. Do we have a question here?
Yeah, Dick asked, what about mechanical engineering? Is it the same to civil?
Okay, what about mechanical? So other universities may have the mechanical engineering as in like the name for the structural engineering, because as you see here, I put civil/structural engineering. Some of them we need to check on their degree requirements. So they have this degree requirements thing that differentiate them towards one another, even though they kind of sound similar. So we need to check. Agak sama sih sebenarnya.
Yeah, usually mechanical and civil, they're not under the same engineering majors, right? Because the specializations are different. Tapi in terms of the requirements, more or less to the same, the GPA, the English bakal mirip. Maybe what will be different is the GRE or the GMAT requirements, right? But as you can see in the UK, it's relatively relaxed.
Yeah. What is the best way to construct our CV and essay so that we can get accepted in the university? Okay, this is a very interesting question, but we will cover this topic in the next session.
So next week at this time around, okay? Dinda, do all universities have an interview selection step? No, not all universities have an interview selection step. Actually, the ones in Manchester that you see there, you only have to submit these, no interview, and you can get in. The ones that will require an interview step is in business. Like if you're going for an MBA, right? Maybe even if you're going for a master's in management. But in other things like master's in marketing, master's in finance, not necessarily. Yeah. Does the living cost between cities in the UK have a significant difference? Yes, right. So London is about £1,500 per month that you need, which is about, I think, correct me, 30 mil? 30
yeah,
juta.
because £1 is equal to 20,000 rupiah.
About there. Northern Ireland is the cheapest. Like we're going to get to it later. It's 800 to about £1,000. So like, my math is 16 mil, 16 mil, right? A month. And then something like Edinburgh, you can get at Manchester for about £1,200. Yeah. So there are different levels of expenses. Okay.
Maybe next. Wait, it's kind of okay. Can you see it clearly? Because okay, sorry.
It's split a little bit.
Yeah, that was split a little bit. Now it's kind of clear, right?
Yeah, it's clear.
Admission process for UK universities. So what you need to prepare for some courses. So if you want to apply for a master's degree, please apply to each university of college or college's application. You can only apply with UCAS if you want to apply for undergraduate degree. So if you want to apply for a master's degree, please check each university. Remember to prepare a personal statement. Make sure that you have requested your letter of recommendation. We suggest that you prepare for this earlier, like way earlier. Yeah, because you need edited, right? And things like that. Academic transcript needs to be translated by a certified translator. So you cannot just because, I understand English fluently and I have like achieved a really great score in IELTS and I am going to translate this by my own. Please don't, they will not accept it. Admission test requirements. Remember, if you want to apply to MBA, you need to check GMAT, right? You need to take that. Or if they accept GRE, you can take that as well. English language requirement for UK, just take the IELTS.
Yeah.
Important deadlines, just for your information.
Yeah, so it'll open in September and it'll kind of close sometime in March, right?
Yeah.
In the UK, the easiest discount or the easiest quote unquote scholarship you can get is if you apply early, right? They can give you up to 10% of the tuition fee off. That doesn't really exist anywhere else, right? Like if you look at Australia, the Netherlands, they will not give you that discount.
Yeah, and if you guys want to apply for scholarships, then applying to each university, I mean, like looking at the deadline, you should not look like the latest deadline or like the very last deadline, because you need to make sure that it's in line with the scholarships deadline as well. Like some of them want you to apply earlier.
No, even for some of them, they don't have a specific date look. They'll just say submit it between January and March. My suggestion is submit it early.
Yeah. So a little bit about the essay. These are the things that you need to put in your essay. Like what Sharon has mentioned earlier, you need to brag in your essay. And we are not kidding. You need to brag. Like, let's say you have worked before and you have achieved, like in your previous work, a 100,000 revenue in a particular project, right? You need to specifically mention that. Yeah. Why? Because the numbers that you put there or whatever achievements that you put there, the admission officers will see that as your accomplishments, as your vivid quantitative measurement of how well you can work in a professional environment. So why you like to apply for the course, right? Why this subject interests you, mention a specific course in the university or in the major that you like to apply to. And what do you think, why do you think you're suitable for this major? Brag about yourself a little. And whether your previous studies relate to the current course. And if not, then explain, put the bridge. Have you taken part in any other activities as well? You should mention that. Just for your information, this is just like an overview of why is it different to pursue a study abroad in like UK or other countries compared to Indonesia or like locally. Because these are the example of partner companies that University of Liverpool's International Business Studies partnered with. So if you want to apply to Liverpool's International Business Studies, and then you have this course that requires you to work with a company, then you get to choose, or you get to be tasked to work in between one of these, which are very big companies. Most expensive to cheapest UK cities.
Somebody asked about that.
Yeah. Somebody actually asked about that. So this is for your information. Definitely London is the first city that is very expensive to live in. Yeah. If you want to screenshot and just save this for your reference, then please do.
Or actually, like if you can later on, there's a Google form. If you just want to leave us your email, I can send this to you, right? Instead of just taking pictures of all of this.
Yeah. For your information again, other than researching about the admission requirements, there's the tuition fee and the living cost later that we will showcase that you need to know. In average, they would cost, the Russell Group universities would cost around £22,000 to 27 or even 28. Yeah. And for those universities that are not in Russell Group, they may cost around, let's say £70,000, £80,000. You can still find some that costs around that.
Hi, Jess. Actually, there is another question from YouTube.
Oh, sure.
Have work experiences if I want to continue my master degree? And the second about the translated academic transcript. How if the university already provided it? Do they need to translate it again to the short translator, or no, just use the one that the university provided?
Oh, if you don't necessarily have work experience, so you need to check, right, what major that you like to apply to. Some of them may not require work experience, but some of them may require that. So it's written specifically in each website. If it's not written specifically, then it's not required.
I think, to put it simply, if you want to go to the best schools, we're talking about a King's College London, Imperial, UCL, I would say 1 to 2 years of experience you will need, right? But kalau kaya you are fresh out of the graduate, or maybe even if you have part-time work, by the way, that counts, right? You can try for a KCL, but if you maybe, let me rephrase. It's not so much the work experience that you need, but the leadership activities that you have.
Exactly.
So you could be like a student who has no leadership activity, right? And therefore you need work experience. Or you can be a very active student without work experience and get into a good university. Yeah, but if you are not active and you want to get into a good university, yes, you need to work to be competitive. Maksudnya tuh kayak, it's not that they will say if you don't have it, don't apply, but it's just you're not competitive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably some students may not have like work experiences at all, but let's say you have experiences like in Britzone, like this kind of nonprofit organization, or you've kind of run this own project thing in this COVID period that you fundraise something or things like that showcase the leadership, then yes, you can. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like in big organizations, but as long as you do something that showcase that leadership, even if it's personal project, it's okay, like to showcase that.
Yeah, because if you don't have leadership or activities, you actually will find it difficult to write as well. Yeah.
That is a very interesting question, actually. One of the questions that we got often asked.
Yeah, and the other one, sworn translation, you don't need it. So if the school can, you need to get the top from the school, yeah, like the stamp to say this is the English translation, they will accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's much easier if you get them to do it because it can be quite expensive to translate each page. I would say like the cheapest that we've seen is 60, 70 thou per page.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheapest.
Next is like the average tuition and living costs, right? So just for your information here, we kind of put an example tuition fee for 25,000 pounds to 30,000 pounds, and accommodation here until the public transport information. We kind of put this per month just so you can get an overview of like how the monthly daily life living cost fee would cost for you.
But they just want to see the bottom. The bottom is you need half an M to go to the UK.
Exactly. And this is only, let's say, the full year tuition fee plus only, let's say, the monthly living cost. So don't think of this as like the entire 1 year of your life in the UK, but more like this is just a bare minimum of 1 month. Gitu. Other costs that, kenapa?
Oh no, but you can make it back if you work there in 2 years. I think if you work back there in 2 years, you would cover the cost of how much you spend.
Yeah. I think that most students think of this as like sometimes they see this as like expense. Rather, we would suggest them to think of this as like investment, because for master's studies, it's not it's different than if you want to apply for an undergraduate degree, right? For a master, you want to be specialized in a certain area and you want to invest your money in that. And there's this thing called the return investment. So by the time that you graduated, your return investment would definitely be more worth it than your tuition fee and your living costs for 1 year in the UK.
Next question from YouTube. Jess, before you start again, what makes a strong graduate school application?
That is a very broad question, to be honest. Like, what makes it strong is, I think you need to meet the entry requirements, and then you need to make sure that you fulfill the entire full requirements, and then to make yourself competitive is what I think that sentence should be rephrased to. Like what Sharon has mentioned earlier, it's better if you have already like work experience, because your work experience plus your previous undergraduate studies, they kind of be in line with each other. And if that's so, then it kind of gives you a strong, like a competitive vibes.
Yeah, so it's more like you need to be able to you have to be active in school, right? Like your OSIS, or you do internships, right? You can take part-time jobs. You can even join competitions. Like if you've won anything, any awards from your school, that sets you apart from other applicants.
Yeah. oh, sorry, just other costs to consider for your informations. These are just brief.
Yeah, I think we can speed it up just kan udah mau jam
Okay.
8.
Yeah. Just so this is for your information only. You can like screenshot this. We kind of in tight with time, so this is university-based scholarship with its own policy and eligibility. So you can definitely take a look at the link for these names, these universities' names.
I think just show them how much they can earn part-time, quite a bit low.
Iya.
Iya, bayangin kalau gaji di sini tuh a good salary here starting kan bisa 6 juta plus kan. Kalau di situ part-time aja per hour tuh sekitar 200.000 sampai sejuta.
Yeah. 10 pounds to up to 60
pounds. Yeah. That's a
if you're
lot
a
of
market
money.
researcher.
Yeah. Okay. So
next one.
Yes. This is one I think that's going to interest a lot of people studying in the Netherlands, right? So to start off with a couple of fun facts, Netherlands borders Belgium and Germany, which means that you can simply take the train to go there and it'll take you less than an hour. As you know, the Netherlands is extremely socially tolerant. So things that would normally be illegal here, like marijuana, the red light district, they're all very, very legal there. So if that gives you an extra excuse to go, right? And maybe for us, if the women here like tall men, the men there are 183 centimeters and above. So they're actually one of the tallest people in the world, right? And as you can see, the Netherlands has several different provinces. Today, the provinces we're going to discuss is going to be in Northern Holland, South Holland, Utrecht, and Groningen. Okay. You can go next, Jess. Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. So why is it one of the best cities to live in, right? In Britzone, I know that you guys are constantly trying to develop your English. So in the Netherlands, 9 out of the 10 people can speak English there, right? If you go somewhere like Paris, if you go to Germany, they expect you to learn the language. Whereas if you're in Netherlands, it's almost, home. And if you like Indonesian food, right? Because they were our colony once upon a time ago, you can get things like risoles when I've been there, right? So it's not that far away. And if you miss home, it can be your second home. The other thing about the Netherlands is like, if you dream to go to London, Paris, Berlin, it is 1 hour away by flight and 2 hours away by train to Brussels. So you don't have to worry about safety, right? Like we know that there is a lot of Asian hate because of COVID. So that's a common concern when you go abroad. But because it is very socially tolerant, it is safe, you would probably get your bike stolen, right, in Netherlands. So that's going to happen to you. But on the flip side, it's good because you can get around the city very easily. And the last thing is there are a lot of people like you, like 1 in 5 people will be foreign born there. Okay, next. So if we're talking about the relative prices, right, the most expensive city that you're going to live in, this is in US dollars, is Amsterdam. Utrecht is not all that cheap, right? There's only a difference of $200, and the cheaper one would be in Rotterdam. The only thing is like living in the Netherlands isn't cheap because of the cost of living there is high, right? So while the Netherlands is cheaper than like our developed Asian counterpart, so it's cheaper than places like Singapore, Japan, and Hong Kong, it's actually more expensive than some of the more developed places like Ireland, Canada, and the United Kingdom, right? The only part of Netherlands that wins is the fact that the tuition fee in the Netherlands is actually cheaper than the UK. Yeah, so that's why, like, if you compare it, you'll find that this is slightly cheaper. Okay, next. So if you're kind of wondering if people are there, what do they study? I think it's quite obvious that the Netherlands does attract a lot of people from business administration. The next thing is behavior and society, right? So what falls underneath this category are things like sociology, psychology, anthropology, economics. There's a surprising number of people who apply for law school as well. Then it's the healthcare profession, and then it's education, right? What we're in. Yeah. You can go next. this is just a general application overview, right? And what we'd actually like to point out is it's not all that different from the UK. So if you remember a few slides ago with the UK, it's almost exactly the same, right? I think that the Netherlands just tends to be very driven by the major. So like a lot of the business major do not require GRE or GMAT, but the engineering majors will.
Yeah.
Next. All right. So we typically get asked, what are the best universities for business, right? It'll be Erasmus, Amsterdam, Groningen, Utrecht, and Maastricht University. I know you guys probably haven't heard of some of them. So today we'll just focus on Amsterdam and Groningen. Next. All right. So I guess we've kind of established that the bare minimum GPA that you need in order to go abroad is a 3.0, right? Luckily, the Netherlands also doesn't have very high IELTS minimums, right? With a 6.5, you can get in. They will require a CV for you. And between Amsterdam and Groningen, they have a different GMAT policy, right? So whereas Groningen just says you need to submit a GRE or a GMAT, what Amsterdam is going to say is you have to submit it with a minimum of 560 to 600, right? So they have that conditional offer. But the nice thing is that you may not necessarily need a letter of recommendation. Just a caveat in Indo, you would ask a lot of your professors to write it for you, right? But sometimes you end up having to edit your own letter of recommendations as well. So the master's program in the Netherlands is actually quite unique, right? I've listed a couple of them, as you can see in the bottom box. And one of their more unique ones include things like cultural economics and entrepreneurship, right? You also have actuarial science and mathematical finance that sits in business. Whereas in most other universities, it would sit in the math department. So these are some of the concentrations that you can take. The nice thing about it is that the program length is at most 12 months, right? So that's only a year of your life. Okay, next. All right, this is just a glimpse into the personal statement for business. We'll talk about this more next time. The University of Amsterdam here, they ask you so many questions, right? They ask you, tell us about your dream. What is your greatest talent? How do you make your school better? What's a time when you experience personal growth, right? And then you kind of realize that they only ask for 500 words. So 500 words is not a lot of words in order to write all of these things. So if you see something like this, right, you can keep it brief. I would go through several rounds because the University of Amsterdam is much more specific than Erasmus University. If we look at Erasmus, it has no guidelines, right? So it'll say, submit a motivational letter. You have no idea what they're asking. There is no word count. So it's up to you, right? So whereas one is hard because you have very little words and a lot of guidance, the other is difficult because it's so open-ended. Gitu. Okay. All right. And now these are the best universities for engineering. So maybe the only universities that actually overlap between business and engineering is Utrecht University and Groningen, right? But in general, the best would be in Netherlands would be Delft and Eindhoven University. Okay. Next. Yeah, surprisingly, in the University of 20, you can apply with a lower GPA for engineering. So with a 2.7, that's enough for you to apply. The IELTS do not change. It's still 6.5. There is a personal statement and a CV required, right? Whereas the University of 20 doesn't ask for any GMAT or GRE. Delft University will ask for engineering. And it will also ask for a previous professor and an employer. So I think it goes back to that question where somebody asked, how do I become competitive, right? You have to have a good relationship with your professor. Because for your professor to write about you, right, they need to know you, they need to know the work you've done, and you have to cultivate that relationship. At most, you will only need 2. Yeah. somebody asked about, sorry, in the master's program, what the Netherlands is good at is aerospace. And what you'll kind of see that's unique about them is the fact that they have engineering and a policy analysis. So that is the intersection between engineering and social science, right? And then you also have European wind energy and robotics. For those of you who do not know, the Netherlands and Europe in general, they're very big on green energy, right? Especially, I think in Netherlands, you have a lot of wind turbines there because of the windmills. Yeah, and therefore that master exists. Whereas, you know, in Indonesia, we're still catching up to them. The main difference is the Netherlands is 2 years instead of 1, right? So whatever tuition fee we put after this, it's that tuition fee for business and double that for engineering. So engineering is going to cost you significantly more in the Netherlands than business will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, there is a question on YouTube.
Sure.
Does it have partner universities in the Netherlands?
Yes, so for the Netherlands, it would be the University of Groningen and Amsterdam. Yeah, but it.
Yep, we can continue.
Oh no, but if you wanted to apply to Delft University or Eindhoven, that's also possible. Like, but that would not be in the partner university list.
Okay.
Oh,
The personal statement. Udah ya?
okay. Wait, my
Oh,
personal
belum.
statement.
Okay.
Yes, the hotelier, I need to look for it. There's actually a school that's good, but I cannot remember on top of my head, right? Actually, if you want hotelier, bukan Netherlands sih, lebih bagus di Switzerland. So the famous hotelier and the tourism schools are in Switzerland. Yeah. The personal statement for the engineering is a bit more complicated. As you can see, Delft, which is number 1, will ask for 1,000 to 1,500, right? So that's a lot of words, and you have to talk about, you know, your final thesis or your final assignment. Whereas Eindhoven University of Technology is kind of like what's it, Groningen before? Sorry, Erasmus before, where they just ask you for a simple personal statement. Okay.
Then this one.
Yeah. So again, this is the most employable universities, right? If you're looking at, I think any of the universities we mentioned there, plus Leiden University, those are very sellable. And what I'll tell you is the Netherlands has a great visa policy for people like us. Next. Yeah. Okay, these are commonly asked questions, right? In the Netherlands, what is the most popular school for international students? It is Amsterdam, Delft, Utrecht, and Leiden University, right? Even though, let's say, Delft University is ranked number 1 for engineering, what is most popular amongst international students is Amsterdam, right? That's why maybe not all of us have heard of Delft or Utrecht or Leiden. The other thing is, can I work during university? The answer is yes. You can work up to 16 hours or full-time during June, July, and August, which is in the summer. So I think Jessica had unfortunately skipped her slide, but in the UK, how many hours was it?
20 per week.
Yeah, so the UK is a bit more generous, giving 20 a week, and you can work the same June, July, and August, right? But unlike the UK, where the Netherlands wins, is that you have 1 year to look for a job, right? So let's say I graduated and I can't find a job within 6 months. You at least have that grace period for for a year, and they'll train you to find a job, right? Once you get that job, you can stay there for as long as the job will keep you. So there's not like a time limit or an expiry on your visa, right? Which is what is appealing to some people. A few more questions. What happens if I don't have the prerequisite degree for the master's I want to apply to? For engineering, it's very difficult. So if you're a non-engineering major, let's say like you're in business or you're an art major who wants to become an engineer, It's incredibly difficult because most times the engineering school asks you to demonstrate sufficient understanding in math and physics, right? It's the opposite for business. So let's say I'm a fashion design school, a student, or an anthropologist who wants to do business. It's much simpler because what they have is called a pre-master's program, right? So based on the current classes you take, the universities will evaluate you to see whether or not you have the background for business. If you don't, they make you enroll in a course that's about 6 to 12 months long, right? And normally this courses is linked to the university. So like the University of Amsterdam will have the pre-master's program, which means that you will learn in the University of Amsterdam, but the curriculum will be carried out by somebody else, right? To prepare you for the next year where you will be integrated into those classes. Okay. The deadline is between January 15, 2022 and May, depending on the major, right? And this is for the September 2022 intake. Okay, so the average tuition cost, as you kind of see, if you can learn how to like not splurge, right? You can just, it's gonna cost you 570 mil. If you are on the splurger side, it'll be 731. But again, as I've said, the tuition cost is cheaper. It's $18,000, 18,000 pounds compared to 23,000 pounds, right? And I think if you convert that, the difference is about 100 mil, which is significant. Yeah, and yeah, and again, engineering is double than this. Okay.
Next, yeah.
Scholarship, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the last thing is the scholarship information, right? If you're trying to look for a more generous school, I would definitely suggest look at the University of Amsterdam because they can provide equal to the tuition fee, right? And they will give you a one-time stipend of 5,000 pounds. The only thing is that the scholarship, they only reimburse you. So you need to pay up the initial amount first, right? You can't just go there, expect not to pay anything, and then just go to school. And it's paid in 12 equal installments. So they expect you to have a high GPA. Again, an 8.0 out of a 10 is a B, it's a 3.0. You have to write an easy motivational letter, which is 300 words. Again, proof of English proficiency and a GRE and a GMAT to be qualified. The University of Groningen will only provide 5,000 pounds for your living cost, which is not that much, right? You can only apply when you get accepted, and they will evaluate you based on your performance in your bachelor's degree, in your S1, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So now, hi guys.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Inesia, and now we're going to talk about Australia. I'm sure that you guys already, curious about Australia because, as Sharon have said before, that Australia has the most Indonesian students compared to UK and the Netherlands. But why Australia? Why Indonesian student chose Australia over any other countries that has a good education as well?
Yeah. So wait, so hold on. Even if you look at this map, right? Where do most people go? Melbourne and Sydney, kan? So
Yes.
it's really only like it's west east.
The west.
East. Okay, I don't know why. No, the east part.
Yeah.
The east part. It's
East
east
part.
part.
Yeah, the southeast parts of Australia that are popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you go to Canberra, like Sharon said, that it's like a dead city. Okay, next. This is the reason why Australia has become the most country with the international students. As you can read that its institution is high quality, and the price also affordable compared to the other country. Okay, next.
I think, yeah, okay.
Okay. This is the other reason why we choose study in Australia. Like as you can see that it's close proximity to Indonesia. It's only 7 hours from Jakarta to Sydney, and there is a significant Indonesian presence living in Australia. In my imagination, like if you go to Australia, you can find Indonesian everywhere, and and a large population of international students. And the most important part is Australian universities are among the most prestigious universities in the world. So it's like you get in one package. First is it's close proximity to Indonesia, like you can go home anywhere, and even in you are in a long distance relationship, you only 3 hour 3 hour away from Indonesia. Okay, next. And this is the characteristic of Australia graduate degree. It's not that different from UK, like the average length of study is like 1 year for business management and 2 years for engineering. And most of its universities are public ones. And you can stay and you can look up for a job in Australia for 2 years after you graduate. So you can work there after you graduate with your visa. Okay, next. And this is the most employable universities in Australia. I'm sure that these names is already familiar with you guys, like University of Sydney, University of Melbourne. Sharon have mentioned before that I think this is the the G8, the G8.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And the nice
But it's Adelaide. Yeah, I think it like Adelaide
Yeah.
University.
Yeah. So again, why Australia is very popular is because Australia has a tendency to work with a lot of partners, maybe like people like us, right? To make it kind of easy for you to get there. Whereas, in the Netherlands, not a lot of universities will work with us. And I think UK, you have a lot more, right? So this is one of the reasons why people prefer Australia as well.
Yeah, like we have international class that you can that you can spend 2 years in Indonesia and you can spend another years in Australia.
Yeah.
And next, this is the postgraduate courses in Australia. The first one is management. The second is accounting and finance, engineering and technology. And for education, if you have a background in education and you want to, learn in depth about education, like you may choose a specialization like special education, you might want to go to Australia because I think its education program is one of the best in the world. And you can also find computer science and information technology, architecture, and interior design and planning.
Yeah, especially for Australia, they are popular for their healthcare profession. So they are very much more in advance than the rest of the world for things like occupational therapy, for psychology.
Next. This is the best business management school for masters. The first one is Melbourne Business School from University of Melbourne, and Australian Graduate School of Management from UNSW or University of New South Wales, Monash Business School, University of Queensland Business School, and Macquarie Graduate School of Management. And if I'm not mistaken, the University of New South Wales also good in engineering, like civil engineering. It's also good in there. Okay, next. This is the entry requirements for Master of Management in Australia. The sample of university I put here is University of Sydney and University of Melbourne. For University of Sydney, you can go for like 1 year study. But in the University of Melbourne, you can take 2 years full time. And just like any other country, that is the main language is English, you have to take IELTS and TOEFL. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Australia also take Duolingo if you are unable to get IELTS or TOEFL.
Yeah. So again, the difference between the Master of Management and the MBA is that if you're a fresh graduate and you do not have a business background, like let's say you're an engineer, the Master of Management is a good program for you, right? The key difference is that in the Netherlands, they will ask you for a pre-master, which is a year. whereas they will not ask you for it in Australia, right? So they allow you to make that switch without an additional year.
Okay. And both of these universities also require you to submit a personal statement, and both of these doesn't. You don't need to submit a letter of recommendation. And for University of Sydney, if you want to go for management, you have to take a GMAT or GRE, but University of Melbourne doesn't need it. And if I'm not mistaken, again, that for University of Melbourne, if you want to go for, accounting, finance, and another major with numbers, you may want to take GRE or GMAT. Okay, next.
Okay, so this is the Melbourne's business school, the personal statement. What's nice about it is that it's only 500 words. It's only asking you about, your career goals, unique background contributions that you can give, knowledge or skills that you hope to gain, right? And a situation where you've managed people. So again, this is why having leadership is important, because if you don't have that leadership experience, how will you answer for, right? You can't. Yeah, that's just a clear example of that. Next. Okay, now this is the best engineering schools for the master's program, right? You have UNSW, Adelaide, UTS, Sydney, RMIT. So from this, you can kind of conclude that if you go to Sydney, you're pretty much safe because UNSW is in Sydney. So 3 out of the best 5 engineering schools are located there. All right, next. This is the entry requirements for the Master of Engineering. If you're looking for a 1-year program, the only one that will give it to you is UTS, right? What is nice about Australia is that there's no minimum GPA except for Adelaide. Again, the IELTS is not that high. For engineering, you don't even have to write an essay, right? And you may not even need a letter of recommendation. So if you're taking a look at this, the engineering program is actually one of the easier ones to apply to compared to the UK or the Netherlands, right? Because more often, actually getting into an engineering school is more difficult than business. Okay, next. This is the average cost of living in Australia. The most expensive is in Melbourne, right? But if you're into things like good coffee, if you like the hipster scene, I would actually say Melbourne would fit you more, right? Whereas Sydney is more of an international hub where people look for jobs. It's also not very cheap at 1,300. Then you have, Adelaide, Canberra, and Brisbane, which are at about 1,000 to 1,100. These cities tend to be a little bit less vibrant, right? So you may not have to spend as much money to be able to live there. But then again, what we want to emphasize is that, when you study abroad, it's not that cheap to do so. Because in Australia, like in the UK, the cheapest living cost for you is about 15, 16 mil, right? Yeah. Same with, I think it's the same with Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Okay, next. As you can tell, the University of Melbourne is going to be a little bit more expensive than the University of Sydney, right? So University of Melbourne is between 740 to 890 mil, whereas Sydney is between 660 to 790 mil. And this makes it all the more important, perhaps, for you to look for a scholarship. Next slide.
Yeah.
All right. So Australia is like the UK. You can work 20 hours a week, right? After graduation, you can stay in Australia for 18 months, up to 4 years. So it is one of the more generous policies that a foreign country will give you. Okay, next.
Wow, just as an update, we have 30 people watching our presentation on YouTube.
Oh, okay. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
All right. Keep going, Jess. So I know we've just given them like 50 plus slides, right?
No. Hopefully this is useful for you guys. But we will be able to share this to them later, right? So you don't need to take pictures.
Correct. Okay, the University of Melbourne is generous, right? You can get a 25% to 100% fee waiver. and it's for the total duration of your course. It's not even per year. What you need to do is, you have to be able to get in, and you have to stand out in terms of your GPA, right? And your outs and your work experience. Sorry, that's not in there. For the University of Sydney, you will only get 10,000 Australian dollars a year, right? Typically, that's about a 25% scholarship fee. But the only thing is that it only covers your tuition fee for a year, right? And then in here, they ask you for a 75%, which is very doable. Okay, I think that should conclude it.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We wanted to leave some time for discussion, any other questions, right? Oh, and yeah, UTS, the whole fee. You could read this at your own time.
Can I ask? Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, my name is Rafli. I have a case like this. Actually, I am studying in Australia, and then I going back to Indonesia for join pilot school. 2000. My visa is 2018. Then in in the middle of semester, and then I going back to Indonesia, and then suddenly COVID-19, right? So I can't going back to Australia, and they still border until now. So do you have solution for me, and then suggestion for me as well? I didn't. And then even my certificates and then anything still in Australia.
Are you done with school already, or are you currently taking online classes?
Yes, but I think my visa because I didn't attend for the class right before join before the COVID-19 coming, and then I never come. I never attend for the class like that.
Sorry.
So it means maybe my status is like drop out like that because there is no break. I think break course is not available for in Australian, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have not dealt with that case yet.
Yes.
Before, because most people either they postpone or they were able to slip
Yes.
in right before it closed, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very sorry to hear that. I think if we ever find out, we'll let you know because that's a very tricky immigration situation, right? Because it's a matter of your work permit, kan?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure they will make us. I think they will make like a policy for it, but the best place to ask is the Australian embassy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, we're sorry about that. It's a complex situation.
Yeah.
Because if not, there is no case of the COVID-19, maybe I can back to Australia for the clearance, everything. But I don't know. Still, I can't do anything. Even my agent as well like that.
I see.
Mm.
Well, then my suggestion, we probably need to check because that's a very tricky question. Yeah, Sharon's right.
Yes.
But
correct.
but we hope that you be able to go back soon, like once this pandemic is
Yes.
over
Correct.
and
Yes.
continue your studies there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean doing like that, but suddenly, right?
Yeah.
Even we can't come in to Australia because we are still border status, right?
Yeah, the only country that's open is the US right now. Even the UK has lockdown, right?
Seriously, very complicated.
Yeah, it's not just you. It's like our undergraduate students cannot leave to the UK.
Yes, yeah, it's for my friends as well.
We have
Okay.
we have two other questions. I think these questions are quite interesting as well. Let me read this out loud. I'm interested in the energy course, in bracket system energy or sustainable energy or renewable energy, but still confused upon deciding which university that I want to apply to. At first, I think the UK is more suitable. However, after your explanation, Netherlands seems interesting. Do you have any suggestions for me about that? And the second part is the living costs for one person. If we want to take our family, how is the budget that we should provide in our bank account, especially for visa processing? Okay, which one would you want to answer, Sharon?
I think for number one, it's a little bit difficult to answer at face value, right? Because both the UK and the Netherlands, they're good places. But again, what you have to take into consideration is I think you can apply to both engineering schools. You can get in. The only thing that's more appealing in the Netherlands is how long you can work, right? If you're trying to sustain your family, and if Netherlands is going to give you a visa that's longer than 2 years, you may be able to get a better return on your investment with it than the UK, because the UK is only 2 years, right? And the other thing is probably if you can get awarded a scholarship, right? So if I were you, I would apply to both and see which one will make you a better offer. That's for number one. Two, the living cost is for one person, right? If you want to take your family to the UK, Netherlands, or Australia, how is the budget?
The budget for the family.
I think we don't have an estimation
Yeah.
for a family budget because right now we're still doing the living cost for one person just yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
Visa processing, because the UK visa is not cheap either. The UK visa is like student visa, berapa sih? 11 juta ya?
I don't
11 juta
have
deh.
it on top of my head, tapi emang dia nggak murah juga
Yeah.
sih. Yeah, we need to check that. Another question from Roughly. He's currently taking English literature, and I'm planning to continue my education to UK. Do you guys have any recommendation about the university that offers high quality education major?
In English
In the
literature
UK.
or education as a major? Majornya
Roughly.
education for S2 bukan? Or English
Yeah.
literature?
And as an English education.
Oh, okay. English education. Schools that are really good for English, I would say to lebih like King's College London, more oriented towards the humanities, right? I think Edinburgh is also good, but we would need to check specifically which English literature you want and also the requirements. So perhaps I will leave my email here, right? If you want to contact, we actually need to pull up that research for you. Yeah, well, I don't have it on top of my head right now.
Yeah. So any other question from our participants? Oh yeah, and later on, by the end of this presentation, I know that we don't have much time left, and I know that you guys must have had this tons of questions in your head. So please don't worry and rest assured. I will share a link. We'll have a bit of time before the end of our presentation, so feel free to ask. But if you don't get a chance to ask out your questions, then please feel free to fill in this link.
Which will also contain the partner universities, right? Because we didn't give you a PDF of everything that we have. So you can just open that and that will take you to the PDF.
Okay, wait a bit. Let me grab the link real quick. Okay, this is the Google form for the questions inquiry related to today's presentation. We will share another Google form for next week's presentation. So if you have questions about the essays or about, let's say, the CFE or things like that, then please stay tuned for our next week's presentation because we will talk about an in-depth view about that. Gitu, ada lagi yang mau bertanya? What about, let's say, I want to ask a question and pretend as if like I'm a student. This is one of the questions that got asked a lot. Like, let's say for Indonesians, you've mentioned earlier that Australia is one of the most, let's say one of the most popular countries, right? Because it's near our home. It's very located deket banget with Indonesia. But let's say other countries apart from the Netherlands, UK, and Australia that Indonesians juga like to go to, and we have partner universities there. Can you share like which countries?
You know, me.
Oh iya, pura-puranya Mi jadi student.
Okay, in Australia, a lot of the universities that we have, it actually covers almost every Australian school you can think of in your head.
I see. And we also have the
Swiss
schools. We also have the Swiss schools for the hotelier. So the question, we have another question. Can you tell
Can you
us
tell us?
your story? How can you get accepted to study abroad in another country? Oh,
Okay.
then this will specifically be for Sharon.
Yeah, so I went to an international school here, right, which actually prepares you to study abroad. Even the curriculum that we did was aligned. Tapi kayak if you want to study abroad, sebenarnya the key is not too difficult. They want to see that I did a lot of sports, right? So I played in a lot of tournaments. I flew to, Singapore, Taipei, Bangkok to play like touch rugby and badminton. So that was a huge selling point back then. So this is for my undergrad. Yeah, I didn't go there for my graduate school. But to prepare to get there, I had to write a lot of essays. So like if you're applying to the US, it's a bunch of essays that you have to write about yourself. I think I ended up writing over 30 and taking the SAT, right? But basically to get in, good grades, good extracurriculars, meet the minimum IELTS test score and get a good letter of recommendation. And basically that will prepare you for that journey, right? I would say the other thing you should be prepared for is culture shock. Even if you were raised in whatever international system here, you go and live abroad, you have the shock of your life, right? Like it's not the same. Yeah, in most other places, I can guarantee you have to be assertive. As in like here, too, yeah, you can muter and not say what you need to say. But if you go abroad, you have to learn how to do that. Yeah.
Oh, we have another question.
Okay.
Shocking culture.
Oh.
What do you mean by that? Oh, probably a cultural differences is what Sharon meant.
Yes.
Like definitely each countries have these own specific culture, uniqueness that is different towards one another, right? So when we go abroad, we definitely be in this diverse community, especially when we go to university. You not only see, let's say you go to UK, you not only see UK students, but you be in this community where there are students from the US, probably from Saudi Arabia or from India and from all these countries. That just gives you a new feeling. That's totally different to being in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Kak, another question. We know that you mentioned about the next class several times.
Yeah.
These people ask, could you please tell me the overview of what are you guys going to deliver next week?
Okay, so next week we're gonna deliver how to write the personal statement. So it's general enough that it should cover any country you apply to, right? So we want to give you the structure. We want to give you the ability to brainstorm, like some brainstorming tools. At the same time, we also want to present a couple of like grammar errors, like common grammar errors people make, how you fix it, right? And the next thing also in that session is we're going to do how to do your resume. So we'll take a resume that's not so great and we'll make it really good, right? So we'll walk you through that process as well. Yeah, that's what will be delivered.
Cool, and I believe all of us can't wait for next week. And there is another question. During the pandemic, do universities in those three countries have special health insurance for their students? Or they should have insurance in advance before they apply to those universities?
Okay. So in each of the countries that you mentioned, they will make health insurance mandatory for you. But if you get COVID, the insurance will cover it. So it's not a special insurance plan, right? Because if you take the student plan from the university, it will cover any COVID illness.
Oh, do we have?
We have another questions.
Oh, we have lots. Why most masters study in Australia take 2 years to complete compared to in UK or other Euro countries? Will we get permanent residence after we complete our study there? How much years are required? And the next one, I'm still undergoing my bachelor's degree. If I want to continue study abroad, what requirements that I must prepare, including scholarship?
I'll answer Cornelia. So a lot of the times the master's study in Australia takes a bit longer to complete because they have more prerequisite classes, right? So they're trying to get you to go more in depth with your learnings, and they require more field work in Australia than in other countries. The next part is unfortunately not. Getting a permanent residence in Australia is not easy at all now. Normally, people can get it if they purchase some sort of asset or some sort of housing, right? As to student permanent residence, so far, I'm not well versed in that. I do know that Canada is easy. So if you're looking for a permanent residence, you just have to work in Canada for a year, get your master's degree there, and then you can get your PR, right? So Australia isn't the place that I would go to get my PR. Jess, you
Yeah.
want to answer Helia?
Sure. So you're still undergoing bachelor's degree. If you want to go study abroad, what requirements that you must prepare for a scholarship? So I will answer this for a specific university-based scholarship, right? Because when we talk about scholarships, there are the government-based scholarships as well that may require a long process and a very different set of requirements. So in terms of the university-based requirements, what you need to prepare generally is definitely one, you need to take a look at your transcript because it's a scholarship based application. They would definitely first thing they would take a look at your academic capabilities, right? And then the next thing, you must be prepared to write a good essay because most of the scholarship would require you to write an essay, like an additional one to your graduate application, the mandatory graduate application, that's another thing. And then there's the application for scholarship, right? And you must also be prepared if they require any interview. And basically, you need to take a look if there are any additional requirements or if you are eligible for that specific scholarship. How you take a look at that is you take a look in the scholarship section and you look at the major that eligible to apply for that scholarship because not all majors have this scholarship based thing. So if you want to apply to major A, but it's not covered by the scholarship, then yeah, you might want to take a look at other majors. So those three things. I think we have like tons of questions and I think we will keep this, like we will reach back out to you guys.
Wait, let me do this. We'll answer the last two, and after this, there's probably we don't have time. Ralphie, Amanda, if you're volunteering in communities, they will consider it as a plus point, right? Especially if you've like spearheaded some initiative. Forensics accounting, Mercury. Mercury University has a very good reputation. Actually, it's quite famous for being for producing a lot of investment bankers. So Mercury is strong in finance, right? And also in accounting. Yeah, so it's a great school. I think it's one of the ones in the G8. Yeah, I think that should answer all the questions.
Wow, we have very interesting questions today, and not to mention from the 35 participants in YouTube. So like in total, we have like 70s attendees.
Yeah. Oh, the last thing, special offer.
Right. Wait, let me go to the very last page.
Yeah. So we want to keep in touch with you guys. This is our Instagram page, right? We would love to give you the consultations. Just unfortunately, we cannot give it to all 60 people. Yeah, and the last thing is just our contact number.
Oh, this is the typo. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, this is like if you want to reach us, that's our WhatsApp. You can either email me or you can email info@Origo Edu, right? And then we get back to you.
Yeah. Again, I will share with you the Google form link because we will specifically see the questions and respond more fast from the questions that you guys submit through that Google form. Feel free to contact us if you have any other questions. And yeah, it was a really fun session.
Yeah, thank you guys for showing up and listening. We know it's a lot of information, and thank you Britzone for hosting this. I think it's been a wonderful session.
Yeah, we give it back the session to the MC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kak Sharon, Kak Jessica, Kak Gracia, and also Kak Ines. Yeah, wow, we can see that the Britzoners are excited because they asked a lot of questions until you need to fasten up your presentation. Wow, that's cool. Thank you so much, Origo team, and I really can't wait to see you again next week.
Okay. Yeah, we're excited as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rizon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Britzone.
And also thank you for everyone who joined us today. We hope that you can gain something. Actually, not some things, but a lot of things. And you can prepare yourself to study abroad and maybe continue your graduate school in overseas. Who knows? And also, before we close the class, as usual,
Oh,
guys, let's turn on your camera, guys. We will have a photo session.
Can I have the
Kak
photo
Kiara,
later?
Do you
Can I
have
also can I also have the photo later? Kind of like
Yes.
thank
that.
you.
for our Instagram.
Yeah, and our Google business
Sure,
page.
sure. Yeah.
We'll be on Origo Instagram. That's cool.
Okay, come on, guys, turn on your camera. Okay. Raki, would you mind to take a picture, please?
All right, guys, are you ready for the photo session? I see some of you just turn off the camera. Maybe I will count until 5 in 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Turn on
So
your camera.
please be ready.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Cheers. All right, wait a moment.
Is it that, Raki?
All right, be ready for the next slide. Wait.
Oh, for the second slide, yeah.
Yes.
But you smile. Who knows? You might appear in the second slide as well.
In 1, 2, and 3. All right, it's a wrap. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys. See you
you,
next
guys.
week.
Next week.
See you on Saturday.
Okay. By the way, don't leave the group, yeah. We will send the link if you have any other question, and also the feedback link, the class photo as well. So don't leave the group, the coordination group, unless we kick you from that group. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you guys. See you. Bye.
Bye.